Since Naira don dey depreciate, na now those of us wey dey abroad, we dey send more money to Nigeria. If you wan dey honest with yourself, you go agree wetin I dey talk now. As Naira start to depreciate, na now you dey send more dollars back home. Nigeria's economy needs the Naira to stay competitive. 2 years after electing Bola Tinubu as president in February 2023, Nigerian voters have good reasons to feel traumatized by their choice. The value of the Naira has collapsed. Petrol prices have quadrupled following the withdrawal of motor fuel subsidies, and food prices are more than 80% higher than when the election was held. Poverty, which blights the lives of more than half of the population, has risen. Yet, President Tinubu's economic reforms give Nigeria the best hope for sustainable growth that it has had for decades. The path the reform process takes next will be crucial for the country's future. At the center of the reforms has been Tinubu's decision to allow every substantial devaluation of the Naira, which has fallen from 460 to the dollar around the 2023 election to just below 1,500 Naira now. Nigeria's currency adjustment is one of the largest anywhere for years. Only the Ethiopian birr has seen a bigger move recently. Benefits of a weaker Naira. In any developing economy, the most important price is the price of a dollar. If dollars are too cheap, then imports rise sharply. This can make a country financially vulnerable. More imports boost a country's trade deficit, and deficits can become difficult to finance if global creditors lose their appetite for risk, which happens often and unpredictably. And when they do, painful bouts of financial instability can follow. At the same time, excessively cheap dollars encourage companies and individuals to find ways of getting money out of the country to park wealth in safer havens at low cost. All in all, it is impossible to establish a basis for growth when capital has an incentive to leave the country. With the Naira's fall, however, Nigeria is arguably now more competitive than at any time in the past 25 years. The depreciation of the Naira has had two hugely positive consequences. One is the improvement in Nigeria's balance of payments. The current account, the broadest measure of a country's trade balance, is now firmly in surplus. Capital, albeit mostly in speculative form for the time being, is re-entering the country. As a result, the Central Bank of Nigeria has added to its foreign exchange reserves, which now exceed $40 billion. Having an adequate stock of reserves is a sine qua non for financial stability in developing countries. So the progress the CBN has made is to be congratulated. Gross reserves are at a prudent level now, more or less equal to Nigeria's stock of external debt. But they could usefully go to higher than this. The other positive effect is that the Naira's devaluation has given substantial support to the Nigerian budget. The World Bank argues that a misaligned exchange rate hit Nigeria's budget harder in recent years than the cost of the government's fuel subsidies. That is because when the official exchange rate allows dollars to be sold for fewer Naira than they are worth, the government's revenues from oil and gas royalties, customs and excise duties, and the large part of VAT and corporate income tax that is paid in dollars are all much lower in local currency terms than they should be. Because of the Naira's fall, alongside the removal of petrol subsidies, Nigeria's fiscal deficit narrowed from 6.4% of GDP in early 2023 to 4.4% in early 2024. The challenge of inflation. The uglier consequence of the currency slide has been its effect on inflation, which ended 2024 at 35%, painfully high by any standards, although reported inflation fell sharply in January to 24.5%. This was thanks to last month's introduction of a new set of weights and a new base year for the Consumer Price Index. Defeating inflation remains a large immediate challenge for Nigerian policymakers, not least because the urban poor suffer the most from it. That challenge raises a central question: how to bring inflation down. There is an easy answer to this question that should be avoided at all costs: to let the naira strengthen further against the dollar. Indeed, it has already strengthened from its late 2024 peak of just below 1,700 to the dollar. A stronger naira is tempting because as surely as its collapse pushed inflation up, a naira that gains in value would push inflation back down as imports become cheaper in local currency terms. The problem with this approach is that it will accelerate the disappearance of all the gains in competitiveness that have been won through the currency's decline. Nigeria desperately needs to attract foreign direct investment, long-term capital that helps add to the economy's productive capacity. It is something of a tragedy that this country of 230 million people has failed to attract more than $2 billion worth of net foreign direct investment inflows annually in recent years. A currency that stays competitive is a necessary, although by no means sufficient, condition to encourage more productive capital to enter the country. Also, essential is a stable commitment to improve the business climate. Everything from improving electricity supply to tackling corruption, reducing red tape, and enhancing the sanctity of contract. Resisting the temptation of a stronger naira. Instead of relying on a stronger naira, a more rapid decline in inflation would be better supported by two strategies. The first would be to improve what economists call the monetary transmission mechanism. The CBN's policy interest rate is now at 27.5%, which is appropriately high. Yet, deposit accounts in Nigerian banks pay an interest rate closer to 10%. That is great for banks that earn large profits from this difference, but not for short change depositors. Higher deposit rates will help to kill inflation, promote financial inclusion, and help Nigeria to mobilize domestic savings into financial system. The second is to raise public revenues. IMF data suggests that Nigeria's total government revenues are less than 10% of GDP. That is extraordinarily low by international standards, lower even than the 14% average for sub-Saharan Africa. The government is firmly focused on raising revenues, but its importance cannot be overstated, not least since it offers a way of helping bring inflation down without sacrificing the naira's competitiveness. Underlying Nigeria's history of failed exchange rate devaluations is its policymakers' consistent unwillingness to keep the exchange rate competitive in the period after each devaluation. Time now to end that pattern and resist the temptation to let the currency strengthen excessively. The path to a more capital-rich, more diverse Nigerian economy can only be built on a competitive naira. I took the time to read all of these from Chatham House. Nigeria's economy needs the naira to stay competitive. When I saw this post, I know a lot of people are, waiting concern Britain for our own naira. As in, why should they be dictating to us on how we should run our economy? Well, we fit blast them as we want, but from my own point of view, waiting and talk they true. Why? Because since naira done they depreciate, now those of us where they abroad, we they send more money to Nigeria. If you want to be honest with yourself, you go agree with how they talk now. As naira start to depreciate, now you they send more dollars back home. Because let's say, for example, 5 years ago, when $100 been be how much? Let's say 40,000, 50,000. You been they send $100, but now where $100 be like 70, 80,000. Tell me, say, they send $1,000 every month to go back home. So on one hand, waiting Chatham House talk, they true. But on the other hand, we they feel say, then one still put us under the use us. E get one time where I tell my sister, I say, see, whether the dollar rise or fall, affect prices of goods wey they sell for market. This dollar rise and fall only they affect import, but the local produce, our local product food wey we dey chop, dollar no suppose get anything to do with them, especially the food wey they produce for the country. I no mean the imported food, and even the imported food self customs no suppose they collect the charge, make people they pay in dollars. You understand? But in all, I tell you, if Naira fall, those of una where they depend on your family or on your friends where they are abroad, once dollar don't rise, or once Naira don't rise, we be say UK advise us, make we no let them, make we no try strengthen them. Once you don't strengthen all those people when they send you money for abroad, you go see them go start to they reduce them.